Ukraine. And on June 1st, President Biden authorized an additional $700 million to meet Ukraine's critical needs for today's fight. And that included HIMARS rocket systems with guided MLRS munitions. This package also included javelins, helicopters, counter-battery radars, and ammunition. And I'm especially pleased to be able to announce today that the United States will provide an additional $1 billion security assistance package for Ukraine. And that includes our 12th drawdown from DoD inventory since August of 2021. And it includes guided MLRS munitions, 18 more M777 howitzers, and the tactical vehicles to tow them, and 36,000 rounds of 155 millimeter ammunition. This package also includes $650 million in Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funds, and that will help Ukraine defend itself with 2 additional Harpoon coastal defense systems and thousands of secure radios, and night vision devices, and thermal sights, and other optics. Now, our allies and partners have also risen to the moment. We heard some significant announcements this afternoon about new security assistance packages for Ukraine. And many countries are providing Ukraine with urgently needed systems and ammunition. Other friends have made new commitments to train Ukraine's forces and sustain its military systems. But there are too many countries to properly thank here. I'll just take a moment to highlight a few. I want to thank Germany, which announced today it will provide 3 multiple launch rocket systems and guided MLRS munitions to Ukraine. We're working shoulder to shoulder with both the UK and now Germany as we develop Ukraine's long-range fires capabilities. This effort also builds upon our transfer of HIMARS. Let me also thank Slovakia, which announced a significant donation of MI series helicopters and of urgently needed rocket ammunition. And we also discussed important new artillery donations from many countries, including Canada and Poland and the Netherlands. These are key investments in Ukraine's long-range fires capabilities, and they'll be crucial to Ukraine's efforts to repel Russia's assault in the Donbass. I'm very thankful to these countries and to all of the countries that are helping Ukraine to defend itself, even as the war shifts and Ukraine's most urgent needs continue to evolve. Since the contact group first came together nearly 3 months ago, we built tremendous momentum for donations and delivery of military assistance. And after this afternoon's discussions, we're not just going to maintain that momentum, we're going to move even faster and push even harder. We'll deepen our coordination and cooperation, and we'll bolster Ukraine's armed forces to help them repel Russian aggression now and in the future. So we'll continue working closely and intensively together with this contact group, and we'll keep on strengthening our support for Ukraine's self-defense, and we'll continue to stand up for the rules-based international order that protects us all. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to General Milley.
Thanks, Secretary Austin, for your words and for your leadership in putting together this contact group. It is indeed making a significant difference, and it frankly wouldn't be happening without Secretary Austin. And I want to thank also, as Secretary Austin said, the around 50 countries who participated in this 3rd iteration of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. And I also want to thank Ukrainians Deputy Chad, who attended Lieutenant General Moisuk to today's meeting. The collective efforts of this group have helped achieve undeniable effects on the battlefield against the Russians. And we collectively will continue to support Ukraine as they defend against the unprovoked war, the illegal war being waged by Russia on Ukrainian sovereign national territory. In the current phase of this conflict, the Ukrainians are fighting hard, tooth and nail, every day, inch by inch, yard by yard, kilometer by kilometer, against the Russian advance in the Donbass. The Ministers of Defense and the Chiefs of Defense who met today are committed to providing Ukrainians the means to halt Russian aggression and defend their sovereign territory. The world has a significant stake in the outcome of what happens in Ukraine. The so-called rules-based international order is at stake that has been in place since the end of World War II to prevent great power war and to prevent large powers from conquering smaller countries with military force. Ukraine is under threat. They are at war, and we will continue to support them. But the rules-based international order is also under threat due to the actions of Russia in the Ukraine. The international community is not allowing this unambiguous act of aggression by Russia to go unanswered. To do so, the risks to the world returning to an era when large, powerful countries can invade smaller countries at will. That is what the international community is up against. Since the initiation of hostilities in late February, the global community has responded in an unprecedented manner. The Ukrainian Security Assistance Program has been calculated, responsive, and relevant to Ukrainian defense requirements. Our close and ongoing relationship with Ukraine's military leaders has informed our process to provide a tailored, timely assistance based on Ukrainian needs. Leaders at multiple levels, including the U.S. European Command, led by General Walters, have maintained consistent contact with Ukrainian counterparts. Additionally, I have remained in active communication with the Ukrainian Chief of Staff, General Zaluzny, each week, several times a week, sometimes several times a day. At the onset of the Russian invasion, the global community took action in the form of security assistance to help Ukraine defend itself. This immediate assistance had exceptional impact on the battlefield. Russia halted and turned back their initial advances in the face of fierce Ukrainian resistance. As Russia now invades the Donbas region, which began this offensive on 16 April, some 60 days ago, we, along with our allies and partners, have provided dozens of 155mm howitzers and almost 500,000 rounds. By the end of this month, we will transfer HIMARS systems, ammunition, trained crews for operational use in the defense of Ukraine. We and other countries are building a platoon at a time in order to certify the Ukrainians to make sure that they can properly employ and maintain the system. And in a few weeks, the Ukrainians will have trained long-range rocket artillery in the fight. To date, we have trained 420 Ukrainians on the M777 howitzer, 300 Ukrainians on the self-propelled M109, 129 on the 113 armored personnel carrier, 100 on unmanned aerial systems, and 60 most recently graduating today on the HIMARS. Additionally, the United States has provided over 6,500 javelins and 20,000 other anti-armor systems. Collectively, the international community has provided almost 97,000 anti-tank systems, more anti-tank systems than there are tanks in the world. We have also provided over 1,500 Stingers, more than 700 Switchblade tactical unmanned aerial systems, 20 Mi-17s, and thousands of small arms, and hundreds of thousands of small arms ammunition. The speed that we have delivered security assistance is without comparison. From the time the requests are validated and authorized, it is only a matter of days until the requirement is sourced, shipped, and in the hands of Ukrainians. In some cases, it may take a week, but most of the time, it's measured in days. While more work is required, we could not have achieved this progress without the active assistance from the countries who are present today. We gathered today both in the defense of Ukraine and really in the defense of the world. It is only through the preservation of the rules-based international order that we are going to continue to have a peaceful international system that everyone benefits from. As we move together, we will continue to coordinate with our allies and partners around the globe to help support the Ukrainians with the training and the tools they need to fight and maintain their country's defense. I look forward to your questions.
Peter Martin, Bloomberg. Yeah, thank you very much. Secretary Austin, Ukraine has publicly asked for a long list of weapons, including 1,000 howitzers, 500 tanks, and 300 multiple launch rocket systems. You've repeatedly stressed that US assistance needs to be driven by Ukraine's needs. And with that in mind, do you think that this latest package risks providing Ukraine with too little too late? And then for Chairman Milley, at this point, do you see the consolidation of Russian control in eastern Ukraine as inevitable? Thank you.
Well, thanks for the question. You're right. We remain focused on Ukraine's needs, and we understand what those needs are because, as you heard the chairman say, he's in contact with his counterpart sometimes a couple of times a week. I talk to the Minister of Defense, Reznikov, routinely. And one of the key benefits of having this contact group is that we have the ability of bringing the Ukrainian leadership in. The Minister of Defense, the Vice Chief of Defense, and have them give us a laydown of the battlefield dynamics, and then talk again about what their current requirements are. And as you know, the battlefield is dynamic, needs will evolve over time, and they've identified those needs currently to be long-range fires capability, armor, and some mid-range anti-aircraft capability, and also howitzers, which is different from the HIMARS. And so we remain focused on what their needs are currently and also in the near term, looking out several weeks and months. Eventually, we'll want to work with our allies and partners to build a capability that to sustain themselves over time. But we really are focused on what the leadership believes that its current needs are in this fight. And I think we've done, the international community has done a pretty good job of providing that capability, but it's never enough. And so we're going to continue to work hard to move things, as much capability as we can, as fast as we can, and to ensure that Ukraine can be successful on the battlefield.
So on your question of the Donbass, but on the numbers, just real quick, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I talked to General Zaluzny. We get lists. These are official requests from their Department of Defense. They asked for 10 battalions of artillery, 12 battalions of artillery were delivered. Again, I say 97,000 anti-tank systems. That's more anti-tank systems than tanks in the world. They asked for 200 tanks. They got 237 tanks. They asked for 100 infantry fighting vehicles. They got over 300. We've delivered, roughly speaking, 1,600 or so air defense systems and about 60,000 air defense rounds. This is, when I say us, I mean the international community. You're looking at 260 artillery tube systems, either rocket or tube. Artillery have been already delivered. There's 383 committed, and like I said, almost 500,000 rounds of artillery. The bottom line, and I can go down the whole list of everything. Bottom line is everything General Zaluzny asked for, as rapidly as possible. We get it sourced through the international community, through the United States and allies and partners, and we get it done as rapidly as we can. So I don't know where those numbers are that you're coming from, but we are supporting, we the international community are taking it very seriously, and we are supporting the Ukrainian military as rapidly as humanly possible. With respect to, is it inevitable that the Russians will consolidate power in the Donbass? As I said, that the war started on 24 February. They were defeated in and around Kyiv. They took their forces, they marshaled them and massed them in and around the Donbass. And so right now, that's where the battle's taking place. Two oblasts are in the Donbass. One is Luhansk. The other is Donetsk. It's really the Luhansk oblast where most of the significant fighting is happening in and around Severodonetsk. Right now, the Severodonetsk, the city, is probably 3/4 taken or so by Russian forces, but the Ukrainians are fighting them street by street, house by house. And it's not a done deal. There are no inevitabilities in war. War takes many turns. So I wouldn't say it's a inevitability, but I would say that the numbers clearly favor the Russians. in terms of artillery. They do outnumber, they outgun and outrange. You've heard that many, many times. And they do have enough forces. But the Russians have run into a lot of problems. They've got command and control issues, logistics issues, they've got morale issues, leadership issues, and a wide variety of other issues. So the Ukrainians are fighting a heroic fight. This fight down in the Donbass has been going on since 16 April. And the advances that the Russians have made have been very slow, a very tough slog, very severe battle of attrition, almost World War I-like, and the Russians have suffered tremendous amounts of casualties.
Jonathan Beale from the BBC.
Thank you very much. If I can ask Secretary Austin, I think the Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine has said that the West has given Ukraine 10% of what it's asked for. Do you recognize that figure? And if I can ask General Milley, do you really think that US sending 4 HIMARS systems, the UK sending 3 MLRS rocket launchers, and Germany sending 3, is really going to tip the balance in the Donbass in Ukraine's favor? It doesn't seem that much when you look at the numbers. I know you've given me lots of other numbers, but do you think it's really going to tip the balance? Thank you.
On the second part of that question, I think you have to be careful about equating a HIMARS capability or an M270 capability to other MLRS systems. These are precision munitions. And with a properly trained crew, they will hit what they're aiming at, and it provides some pretty good capability in terms of distance. But a capability is a weapon, a trained crew, and munitions. And so as we train those crews up, we're able to provide them with systems and munitions, and then you have an initial capability, and then you build on it. So over time, yeah, we think the combination of what the allies and partners can bring to the table, it will make a difference. But again, this is a different kind of capability than what you've seen from other multiple launch rocket systems. On the 10% issue, I don't know if you're quoting the Minister of Foreign Affairs or if you're quoting the Deputy Defense Minister. Well, we just spent time with his boss in the room next door, and as we have on a number of occasions and gone down line by line of what they need and is relevant in this fight. So we feel pretty confident that we're working hard to give them what they think is relevant. In terms of, where the big number came from, I can't speak to that. You'll have to let that gentleman explain his numbers. But I would only say this. General Milley and I have been in a number of fights. And when you're in a fight, you can never get enough. You always want more. You always believe that you need more. And I have been there. And so I certainly understand where the Ukrainians are coming from. And we're going to fight hard to get them everything they need. But again, we want to make sure that we're focused on what they think they need for this current fight and beyond. And I think this contact group brings together the right elements to be able to sort through that. And again, this is a constant effort. We don't believe that we're going to meet every need by tomorrow. And in 2 weeks from now, requirements will probably have evolved a bit. So I think we have to put things in perspective. You can never, when you're in the fight, you can never get enough, and you can never get it quick enough. So, but having said all that, we're going to work hard to make sure we're doing everything humanly possible. We're going to continue to move heaven and earth to get them the capability that they need. So
let me, first of all, in warfare, no weapon system is a silver bullet ever. So no weapon system, singular weapon system ever, quote unquote, turns the balance. It's the combination it's a combined arms fight. It's a combination of ground maneuver with air and artillery and so on and so forth. And that's where the HIMARS comes in. In this case, in terms of fires, this is a battle of fires. So the Ukrainians have mortars. They're going to go out to 5, 7, 8 kilometers. Then they've got the tube artillery. That's going to take you out to 25 kilometers with precision fire or accurate fire with the 777s. Then they've also got rocket-assisted projectiles, which will go out to 40 kilometers. And now the HIMARS will go out to 85 kilometers. So we're providing them, as you said, with the Brits and others, about 10 systems. They're going to have well over 100 rounds of ammunition. That's initial package. We're training a platoon at a time in Germany. The Secretary has directed the next platoon to be trained and so on. So this capability will build. But because it's a precision weapon, the amount of ammunition that we're given, if they use it properly, and we just ran the certification exercise in the last 48 hours for these guys, if they use the weapon properly and it's employed properly, they ought to be able to take out a significant amount of targets. And that will make a difference in combination with the 777s hitting at 40 and 25 kilometers in the mortars. So you want to echelon these fires. I will say this, the Ukrainians' artillery, their skills, the artillery skills of the Ukrainians are very, very good. They're top-notch gunners, and the effect that they're achieving on the battlefield right now with the 777s has been very, very good, very effective, and we expect the same out of the HIMARS.
Idris Ali from Reuters.
Mr. Secretary, in the past you've talked about the United States' aim in Ukraine being to help the Ukrainians win the war and weaken Russia. Is that still the United States' goal, or is that out of reach now that Russia seems to be making incremental gains in the East? And for the chairman, Ukrainians have talked about losing between 100 and 200 soldiers a day. Is that your assessment, and is this level of attrition sustainable for a military the size of Ukraine's?
Thanks for the question, Idris. I think you recall the op-ed that the President Biden published here just recently. And in that op-ed, I think he laid it out in straightforward terms in terms of what our goals are, and that is that we want to see a democratic, independent, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine with the means to deter and to defend its sovereign territory. So I think that that addresses the question in terms of what our goals and objectives are. But again, we have said all along that we want to help Ukraine by providing it the security assistance, the means that it needs to do what I just said. What's been impressive about the Ukrainian people, and especially their soldiers, they're willing to fight to protect their sovereign territory. And so if we get them the means, the materials, the weapons, they've demonstrated that they can put them to good use. So we're going to continue to support them with as much as we can and get it to them as fast as we can. And we're going to remain in contact with them to make sure that we understand their needs as this battlefield evolves. And so again, I point back to the benefit of bringing ministers from around the globe together. Again, 30 members of NATO, around 50 or so ministers of defense in this meeting today. And I think that sends a powerful message about how much people around the world care about making sure that we have, that countries have the ability to protect their sovereign spaces, and that we respect the rules of the international rules of law. So, Chairman.
On the assessment, let me caveat by saying casualties estimates in war are always extraordinarily difficult, and most of the time the initial casualty estimates are inaccurate. And it may take months or even years sometimes to get accurate casualty estimates. But having said that, in the media you see reported that Ukraine is taking 100 killed and 100 or 200 or 300 wounded per day. I would say those are in the ballpark of our assessments. I don't want to give you the actual assessments. And can they sustain that? For Ukraine, this is an existential threat. They're fighting for the very life of their country. So your ability to endure suffering, your ability to endure casualties is directly proportional to the object to be attained. And if the object to be attained is survival of your country, then you're going to sustain it. And as long as they have leadership and they have the means by which to fight, ammunition, artillery tubes, etc., then I think Ukraine will continue to fight.
All right, one last question will be from Yuri Shako from Deutsche Welle.
Thank you very much. I have two questions also about numbers and artillery. So, Secretary, you said that there were some other countries that also announced some additional artillery. Can you say us a little bit more what you can, of course? And another question, you said a lot about the advantages of HIMARS and also of advantages of 37s. Of course, they are very precise, it's clear, but if we look really at the numbers of what Ukrainians got, and we compare it with many, many hundreds of artillery systems that Russians had, and also hundreds of MLRS systems that Russians have. And even if we look at what Ukraine had, it had also many hundreds of artillery pieces and also a lot of MLRS, but Ukraine is running out of ammunition for these older systems. And if we look at this gap that Ukraine has now, as it's running out of ammunition, what Ukraine received from the West is not really close to close this gap. So why now we hear only about like 18 additional howitzers, which is not really that much to close that huge gap? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I think you made the point in the first part of your question there that other countries are providing artillery systems and munitions as well. I'll let the chairman speak to the inventory, but I can assure you that the Ukrainians have a lot of 155 munitions or ammunition at this point. The United States, has, we've pushed on our own 108 155 systems into country, and this next package includes another 18. But there are systems coming from a number of other countries around the globe. Some are self-propelled systems, some are towed systems, and they're also providing ammunition. Now, again, it's a combination of the howitzers, the cannon artillery, and the long-range rockets that will create a pretty good capability. And again, as you target things with that long-range capability, you're going after things like command and control nodes and logistical nodes and those kinds of things, which will begin to attrit the adversary's ability to sustain itself and command and control itself. But yeah, I mean, with the systems that we've provided them to date, I mean, the M777s have been absolutely lethal. The problem with the 152 howitzer is that you're no longer making munitions for those howitzers, and so we're going to very quickly have to transition completely to 155s. But other countries are providing capability in addition to what we're providing, and even today, other countries stepped up to the plate and volunteered to provide more. Chairman.
So, first of all, the Russians do outnumber, in terms of artillery, they outnumber the Ukrainians. The estimates vary. Some say 4, 5, 6 to 1, others say 10, 15 to 1, others say 20 to 1. What the true accurate number is, I'll keep our estimates in the classified realm. But they outnumber them, and that's important. But war is not just a game of numbers, it's how you use them. The Russians are using artillery to just do massed fire on Ukrainian positions, but also civilian populations in urban areas. There's about, according to public estimates, some 20,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed. There's 7 million internally displaced Ukrainians. There's 6 million refugees. So the Russians are just doing massed fires without necessarily achieving military effect, shall we say. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, are using much better artillery techniques, and they're having pretty good effect on the Russians. The Russians have lost probably somewhere in the tune of 20 to 30% of their armored force. That's significant. That's huge. So the Ukrainians are fighting a very effective fight tactically with both fires and maneuver, and that's significant. In terms of the numbers, just from today's conference, pledges of almost 100 additional tubes were being made. So you're looking at probably 300 or 400 artillery tubes, not rocket artillery, but tubes, that'll be provided in total to the Ukrainians. And then on top of that will be the long-range rocket artillery that what you're seeing with the HIMARS is just the beginning.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Even no one question from Ukraine journalists. So you're American, others just
Sure.
Sir,
I'm only one who is.
Sure.
So I want to ask okay, for this question, my name is Rusty Solin, just it's Ukrainian media and also Voice of America.
Sure.
My question is to you, how long the United States as a whole group of Rammstein can provide support and armament supply for Ukraine? Because don't know how long the war will go on. Second question, did you convince your German partner and Hungarian partner also to provide weapon which they promised to provide to Ukraine?
So on the first question, how long can we maintain this? We will stay focused on this for as long as it takes. And I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the remarkable pieces that I take away from this conference is the resolve of all the ministers in the room. And again, these are ministers from around the globe, and not just NATO. And it's strong resolve to remain focused, to remain together, and to find ways to create additional capability. That may be partnering with another country to create some capability, or working to expand capability in a defense industrial basis. So my answer to you is we'll stay focused on it for as long as it takes. And again, the commitment that I heard today was very encouraging. And your second question?
Germany and Hungary, which did promise but didn't supply.
Yeah, so Germany today, again, I think you may have heard me say earlier in my remarks that they committed to providing a couple of MLRS systems. And in the past, they've committed to providing other things, and they're still working to make sure we get those systems into theater. We track every one of those. And so, part of the benefit of coming together every month is to make sure that, we can see where we are, we remind countries of, what the challenges are, and, we can work with them to ensure that capability gets there.